Alright, here we are. Welcome back to the Agamemnon game review. Today we're doing the second part of the Warlock journal, going all the way back to the 13th of May. The video was actually shot on the 7th of May 2018, but we were intending to review it or post it to YouTube on the 14th of May, but I never got around to processing the video last week, so I decided to do it this week and to keep all the dates uniform, and then go ahead and post everything a week later. So the actual recording is being done Saturday night, Sunday morning, on the 20th of May 2018, Sunday at 3:29 a.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time. This actually is going back to the time walking event from 2 weeks ago with Burning Crusades. We had reached level 81 and we got locked out of all these dungeons, and fortunately, when that event occurred, the time walking event occurred, so we were able to go and do some of these dungeons using the random system, but not every dungeon from Burning Crusades is part of the time walking event. So our only way to do some of these dungeons and clear them out is out of our quest guide is to wait till we unlock the heroic version of it, as we get to 90 and onward. As of the time of the recording of this audio and not the actual video, I had already reached 80. I'm only halfway. I'm at 89 right now, but I'm halfway to 90 with my Warlock. So I went on ahead and did the Cataclysm quest stuff. As I've indicated, and I'll reiterate it here, I decided that I've slowly learned that much of the game in these days than when I started 13, 14 years ago, the game is more built around dungeons. And the dungeons is really where the lore is. And although you can get some of the lore through the quest, it's really the dungeons that's advancing the lore. And the quests, you can pretty much do at your own leisure. The quests are important to do because that's how you build up your reputation for the character. But you'll need that to unlock other things in the game. I don't know what specifically, but it becomes important later. So our emphasis at this point is to get as much reputation as we can, quickly go through the dungeons using the random tool. That way we can get loot. And slowly, before we get locked out of the dungeons, and as we're progressing to 110, get as many as we can and do as many quests as we can within the respected areas of the game. So in this event, we were doing the random dungeon of Alcatraz, Arcatraz, which is in the Burning Crusades. It's part of the Violet Tower area. And the get the name of the area. It's a Netherin area. But at this stage of my character in the last few weeks, I feel that I'm really being starting to become very relaxed at the way Demon Warlock is. It's taken me a long time to get comfortable from the way Warlock was, the way Warlock is now. I kind of like it. I'm sort of at the stage now where I'm sort of spamming Hands of Gul'dan and the Fellhounds. It's my bread and butter. I've moved the Fear to my #1 slot in my rotation, and Doom, and outside of doing dungeons, I kind of like using the Fear more as a crowd control system, and I use the Shadow Bolt mainly to generate my shards. Not so much as firepower, just I needed to generate the soul shards, and then I pretty much leave my Fel Guard as in defensive mode to protect me, and then I have been using my Hand of Gul'dan as my main offensive weapon. And when the button lights up for the Fellhounds, then I use them at that point because they don't waste soul shards at the time. At this point, my character, through the time walking event, I unlocked a lot of, because I got the time walking currency. I went ahead and bought a lot of the 400 item level things. So this is sort of like the first time my character is using 400 item level in the game. And I'm kind of excited that I'm moving between 400 and 500 item level. If you look at the spread of my damage there on the right SCADA meter there, I'm using SCADA as my add-on there. On the left side I have the damage output for the team. And on the right is my spread of damage through my different spell powers. You see the most bang for the buck is the Demon Guard. He's doing the most physical damage there with this little axe tool. And then behind that is Demon Wrath. And then the little axe there is doing damage. Firebolts there from the imps. One of the things I feel that's deceptive with Demon Warlock, at least at this stage of the development of my character, is that it can be very deceptive of just how much damage the Warlock is doing, because you don't really know what the spread of damage is across multiple targets. And
just tell the prince you released the prisoners. The Naru kept some of the most dangerous beings in existence here in these.
And it takes a while for a Warlock to get up to where you sort of have to build up to your damage, and it's not a quick, like, striking type of DPS, but it is a really good at spreading damage across a large area. So, like, if I have multiple targets spread across, like, If you think of the people standing up front there at the point blank range, and we go out in little concentric circles, like 5 yards, 10 yards, all the way out to 40 yards, I feel the Warlock throws out a much larger path of damage in that 40-yard circle, which does a really good job of prepping targets for the main alpha damage DPS, and so they don't have to really waste a lot of energy. I really see the Demonologist as sole purpose is really to make the other people's damage more efficient.
A lowly gnome? I will do
So if you're taking care of all the spread damage in the 40-yard circle, they can focus on specific things and killing them.
But I will gladly join your fight against this impudent imbecile. Prepare to defend yourself.
I don't know if that makes sense. Makes sense to me in my mind, but that's sort of how I see what the Demonologists are. The Warlock, in overall, I feel that's what we're supposed to do. Our role. I do play the other roles, Affliction, and I do play Destruction. But I feel that Destruction in a team setting, especially if you don't have a lot of strong gear, it takes forever to build up energy in Destruction. And your spells are very slow. And you can get overwhelmed really quickly in Destruction if you don't really pace yourself out, because you're going to run out of mana really quickly. And it takes a long time for your big powers to fire off. So, while you're building up shards. But I feel Affliction is the best of both worlds, and more of a balanced type of DPS, where you do have big booms, but you're mainly dotting people, and you're mainly multi-targeting, which you're using a lot of tab. You're tabbing across multiple targets, and then you're just spreading your damage out. So in the sense that you're targeting multiple people, your damage is spreading out, and you're therefore doing a lot of damage in prepping targets. And you're very mana efficient. I feel Affliction is, of the three, the most mana efficient out of the three specs. But Demonologist, I feel, is the more tankier of the three specs. Like, when I'm in the demon form here, I feel that I'm going to survive the battle. I never had a moment where I feel I'm going to be overwhelmed. And I can just sit back, look at what's happening, I can take it in, and I can direct the battle using my demons. And the more demons I put on the map, the stronger my character is, and the more stuff I can absorb. So, and the demons are taking most of the damage anyway. They're the ones up front getting shot. So, and then I just have to call in reserves. But Demon tends to blow through mana a little bit faster than Affliction. And definitely, I feel Destruction uses more mana than Demon, but it's easy to recover mana as a maybe 1-2 taps, and you get most of your mana back anyway, so it's not like a lot. But when I'm in Affliction and Destruction, I feel a little more squishier in these type of dungeons than I do with the Demon Warlock. There we go. We completed these guys. Yay. I always hate this part of the dungeon the most because If everybody leaves the dungeon before you and say you teleport out to get back to the front, you may not be able to get back to the front. You might have to wait till you can queue up again to end these quests, and that's kind of sad. You know. But especially when you're doing time walking events, not everybody has to go back to the front of the dungeon. So you might be your quest pad tends to fill up with unfinished stuff waiting to be turned in. So when you're walking around in the world, your quest pad tends to be all filled up with grayed out quests. And you have a very limited space to use to get new quests in other areas. I find that to be a problem. At least for me. They should have a quest overflow tool. Here we are back at the consortium in the Outland. A little biodome here. Character sporting out her jeans and t-shirt. I don't really like those hoods. I like her when she's wearing the goggles a little more. I think the goggles give her like character. Cause then she can have her hair all out. Although that hood matches her little outfit there pretty well. The glowy yellow eyes. As I said in part 1, I believe, I'm starting to really see the limitations of pawn. And I developed a table of priority to where how to sell items and go on to new items. Although pawn gives you the best recommendation of individual stats and how well it balances between the 3 stats. I'm gonna prioritize on level item. And then if the level item is higher or even, then I'm gonna go ahead and do the stats. And whatever gives me the best stats in all 3 areas of Warlock, I'm gonna take. Or the majority of the 3 I'm going to take. But I'm always going to rule in favor of item level over stats. Because sometimes the stats are super great, but the item level is like 350 or 75, which is not going to do you any good. You know? So, I think it's important to learn the limitations of some of these add-ons. Not become lazy with the add-on. Now I kind of see pawn as its true purpose is to help me decide what to sell and what to keep. It's not really designed to tell you, hey, pick this one, fool type thing. It's more of here's what it's worth, here's its value, and make a decision. And that's sort of how I use it. I did manage to clear out a bunch of stuff this week. The week of, going back to last week. We'll be shooting the footage come Monday or Tuesday, depending on how my next day off. But I didn't have a whole lot of time off last week. During the week, I worked almost every day. So it was very difficult to work on videos. The hardest part of working on videos isn't so much recording the video. It's the processing part of the video, because that takes a lot of time. At a minimum an hour, because you have to do the audio voiceover. You have to put all the clips together, the audio. You have to process that. That can take 4 hours to do. Then you have to upload it to YouTube and schedule it for a release date. And that takes a lot of time. So getting everything scheduled along with streaming during the week and watching other people's streams and working can take a lot of coordinating of time. But this is going to be our 4th week using Outlook to organize our channel site. So it's been working out pretty well for me in balancing out work schedule. I'm developing a new system for budgeting because I don't want to overspend. Again, at this stage of the channel's development, I'm seeing it more as a hobby and less as a job. At some point it is going to be kind of a job, but that won't be till later on when we start releasing the Chronicles of Earth 9 material, which I plan to do sort of a halfway between that. But I'll talk about that more as we move closer to those projects. But I do want to get back into producing videos in the mid part of the year here, and that's my overall goal. So we decided we're not going to be streaming Star Wars Battlefront 2 anymore. So if you're hearing this for the first time on the channel, the reason why is EA has decided not to, I guess they're going to kill off the game. That's what the rumors are. I don't know what the truth of that is, but they've been kind of... all the EA games that we've been posting has been nothing but trouble. From, I call it the back-end YouTube sort of point of view. There's the only game that we're doing streams for, producing videos, we're always getting hit with copyright claims. No other game does that. I'm kind of tired of dealing with their nonsense, and so I get the opinion that they don't want people promoting their games. So we're gonna let them keep their desire and just move on. We'll be streaming Star Trek Bridge Crew in place of Star Wars Battlefront 2. The new Star Trek Bridge Crew DLC comes out this week for PlayStation 4. I understand it's going to be exclusive to PlayStation 4 for until July. So the PC and Xbox people won't get their... We're gonna be able to feature the Enterprise D bridge pack for the next 2 months. That'll be awesome. Only on PS4. Okay. Looking forward to that. I am looking to get Battletech. I don't know. It'll depend on the way I'm doing my budgeting now. I'm just basically pulling $50 aside every pay period and letting that build up in a small savings account. And when it gets to... I create a huge wish list of items that I need, both hardware and software for the studio. And then as the funds become available, that's when we'll acquire the different things we need. I don't think we should get in a where we gotta have it now type mentality. We should need to take our time, pace it all out, and slowly build to where we want to be. I think that's important. And here we are. I'm just doing some house cleaning. I'm waiting on these dungeons to pop. This is the first time in the game I've actually done time walking events, so I'm kind of excited. When I was doing this, I was really excited to finally get out and do stuff with this character. The outfit looks really good. That purple and blue. Yeah. As soon as I got to a transmog place, I got rid of the... went back to my traditional goggles and jean look. When it comes to my characters, I'm very minimalist. Minimalistic in my appearance. I don't really like all the, like... I call it, what do you call it? Bling? Or I don't like showboating. I like my characters to look high class. And with decent style and not overdo it. I feel like a lot of young people, they overdo the, they don't know how to, the sense of less is more type. There's a point where, like, when you have like a appearance, there's a point to where it looks classy, to where it just looks tacky, you know. Or, it's a fine line. We're gonna leave it at that. It's a fine line. Having to clear out these guys. I found as I was wandering around, I was just knocking people out. So, I'm not feeling I'm gonna die any minute. I tell you the truth here. I feel that as a player, I like this part of the game more, where you're out questing, you're meeting the different villages, you're going and you're learning about the world and exploring and helping people out in the lore. Dungeons are really nice, but I like this aspect of the game more than the other. Hardest part for me is finding that right amount of balance between the two systems. Myself, I get to a point to where the combat starts becoming just, not necessarily too much, but I get bored of it. I have to kind of walk away from it, where I just reach a point where I just don't want to do it anymore. So I have to, like, taking it in like an hour at a time, or in this case 2 hours at a time. Short intervals, is I feel very healthy. Because there are days during the week where I want to play every day, but because of my work schedule, I sort of can't. And I kind of like that. That I sort of have to pick or choose one. Naturally, work is a priority, so that's always going to win. And then I have to sleep. And I have to do other things. So, So finding that right balance for me as a game player is important. One of the things that we're going to try to do with the Agamemnon game review is not only help people learn about the games, or try to help them to realize you don't have to be in a hurry to play the games. You can take your time. You can enjoy the game. You can be relaxed. One of the reasons I like the long video formats as opposed to the shorter 10 and 15 minute installments is I feel that that's the way people actually play games. And it's important to see the entire session of the way someone plays, so you get the real experience of not only the game itself, but the interaction between the player and the game, and the socializing with other people. The only real socializing that you really get in World of Warcraft, in my opinion, is when you're doing dungeons. But the dungeon is so focused on sort of speed playing, you never really interact with the other people, especially in pickup groups. And so it's not till you get with a guild that you have any real exchange of dialogue. So now I've been in this new guild now for about 2 weeks, maybe 3, and I haven't really talked with anybody in the guild. I don't know if that's an accident, but I'm always usually playing in the mid-afternoons, around 1 or 2 in the afternoon, so there might not be a lot of people on, and every now and then I play at night. But I'm not sure if I've been on the right amount of time when people are on and playing, so I hope they don't feel I'm being antisocial. But my priorities is to get this character to 110 before August, before the expansion comes out, and then I'll work on other characters later. This is not my main. This is sort of like my second main. This is my main character in terms of Horde. But my other main, which is my real main, which is I've made that character going all the way back to the original World of Warcraft, 13 years ago, and 14 years ago. And, that character now is lower level than this character, so, but it's an alliance warlock, so. The new, I've already pre-ordered the new novel, Before the Storm. I've read a couple of the excerpts from it. It looks pretty good. There's a big part of that book deals with the Forsaken. I think it's about time that it's actually occurred for the Forsaken, because much of the Forsaken's lore comes from Warcraft 3 and the events around that, and as a whole, from that period of time till now, there hasn't really been a lot of interaction of the Forsaken between, if you're primarily Forsaken, and the rest of the populace in Azeroth. And it's the first book where they sort of humanized the Forsaken, which I kind of like as I play Forsaken. I feel they're the class I most identify with in the game. I don't know why, I just do. I feel they have the most struggle going on of any class, any species in the game. one of the things that I've come to a conclusion in reading some of the book is, in the book so far, Arthur's sister, what's her name? I don't know how to say her name. Is it Celius? Anyway. Sias? Anyway. She comes back and she tries to assert Sylvanus' authority. And Sylvanus isn't just Dark Queen of the Forsaken. She's also the war chief of the Horde. And so she basically the former queen of Lortharon basically talks a bunch of people into joining the alliance, or what Sylvanus called defecting. And a lot of people I saw online were already saying what a good thing what's her name did, Arthur's sister, because she ultimately became a Lightborn Forsaken. But I don't think she really identifies with the Forsaken, because she's just using them as a tool to advance her political agenda, although she's not aware of it. She's not even aware of what she's doing. She's just seeing herself as a liberator, but the thing is, they're already liberated. And I get Sylvanus' point, because and it's hard for people outside of the Forsaken to realize this, but one of the things about being the Forsaken is that you're already dead. And hope and fear is a living thing. It's stuff that living beings have. It's a value, system of value. And in the tarot, it's called the card of hopes and fear. Two sides of the same coin, but it's actually not a good thing to have hope. In terms of if you have nothing left to live for, you tend to have hope, because hope goes along with faith. But if you're a dead being where you don't feel anymore, you don't have warmth anymore, you're just a cold being walking around, you're sort of an outcast of society. Hope isn't a quality that an undead has anymore. It's a false hope, and it's only going to lead to your ultimate demise. And it's a realization that Sylvanus had back in the book of War Crimes, when she tried to help her sister Barisa. It's the last time she felt hope in trying to help somebody that she cared about, and it came back and backfired on her. And she realized in that time, she became harder and colder, that hope was for the living and not for the undead. And she lost sight of that. And I think on a larger scale, when Sylvanus shoots all those people trying to run for the Alliance, she described it as squashing that hope. It goes back to what she was talking about at the end of War Crime. And it's sort of what I'm reading the book Cycle of Hatred right now. And it's sort of the underlying theme of the book Cycle of Hatred. As the Horde, that's not their society. That's not their way of life. And I think it's very difficult for people like Anduin on the Alliance, even Jaina Proudmoore, to really understand what it is to be the Horde. what it is to be the Forsaken. Because what the Alliance is trying to do is they're trying to morph the Forsaken into human. They're trying to morph the Forsaken into living beings who have the same values. And what Sylvanus is trying to get them not really understand or to accept is that they don't have the same values. Seems like as long as the two people exist in the same world, they're never going to have the same values. And just because they don't have the same values doesn't mean one person can wipe the other person out. Now in the Horde, the thing that they value most is war, conflict, chaos. That's the whole point of honor. When you look at honor as a whole, it goes back to the Bushido code, the Bushido system, which was Imperial Japan. Samurai swore their allegiance to the emperor. They were sort of like knights. Swore their life to the king, the pope. But in case of the samurai, it was the emperor of Japan, or even the emperor of China. And so, which they're not born of power like a king. They're just they conquered and they became the emperor. But the war chief is not really a king. They're an emperor or an empress type system, empirical system. And in their society, war is everything. And how you're measured, the highest class of citizen are the warriors, and they're rated by honor. And honor is how they killed their opponent, face to face. You know, hand to hand, face to face. But the undead, like the living, they don't have honor. Because they're dead. They're not going to, like, they're not looking for it to live in the afterlife. They're already dead. So I think it's important in this story coming up. I like that they addressed those issues in this book, because it's something I felt as a person that's been following the lore, that it's something that the game has failed to address. And again, going all the way back to Warcraft, because World of Warcraft goes back 14 years, but the game itself goes back 20 years. So I feel over the last 20 years, in the sense of story, they've never really addressed the Forsaken. And I'm kind of glad that it took them 20 years to finally get around to doing it. But I'm interested to see how Anduin slowly starts to accept, because in the epilogue, he was saying how he's accepted the fact that Sylvanus Windrunner doesn't desire to change. But from a philosophical point of view, why is it that she has to change? She's who she is, and she has accepted who she is, and she's who she is not by her own will. Where she is in life as War Chief, you have to understand from a character point of view, her pathology was she didn't choose to be an undead. Someone made her undead. She didn't choose to die, she was murdered. Arthas, Menethil, murdered her, and then he used her spirit as a banshee to kill off her people. And it wasn't like they killed one, they killed off, was it 98 to 99% of the population of elves, high elves, which became blood elves. And her name is Celia Menethil, that's her name, Celia. And she's no better than Arthas, really. But she's just naive. But Arthas was naive too.
What are you doing?
That's why he was used by the original Lich King. He was able to be manipulated by power. And I like that Sylvanus sees through all that. Because I feel it out of all the characters in the lore. One of the best things about Sylvanus Windrunner, as opposed to all the other characters, is she's not driven by power. She's not driven by greed. She's not driven by her, she doesn't have a need to conquer. For her, war is a necessity. It's a means to get to where she needs to be. And her overall goal is to see that the Forsaken not necessarily gain immortality, but she wants to see that they survive. She herself wants to obtain immortality for herself. But she's not driven by greed or power. And I think the Alliance trying to combat her is gonna have a hard time against her, because she's not like Garrosh and she's not like Thrall. But the one strength that she has as a character is she can be reasoned with. And she listens. But one of the things I like about her too is she's not soft. She's a hard character. Tough character. And I think Anduin realizes that in this book. That he's dealing with someone that's not an idiot or naive about things. Or disillusioned about fantasies. Or the way they want life to be, sort of idealistic. And I think that's the biggest difference between Anduin and Sylvanus. He's idealistic because he's a priest. He has to be. Because the thing that motivates a priest, at least a European priest, is faith. Faith, you have to be the ultimate idealist. You have to believe in something. The point of faith is outside of evidence and outside of knowledge. You take it on faith that it ultimately will lead to good. You know, that's what faith is. It's a building block to trust, because you can't get to trust without faith. So, as a character, he has to believe in that. But Sylvanus, on the other hand, she doesn't believe in faith, because she doesn't have the luxury to. In her life, faith has failed her. Her people were murdered. She was murdered along with them. And she was used to murder her people. Everything that was hers was stolen or destroyed by other people, including the Alliance. And when the Forsaken first were liberated by her, she went to the Alliance first, and the Alliance turned them away as monsters in the story, and they didn't want anything to do with the Forsaken. And it eventually was the Horde that allied with them. And so I think this book coming up is going to be important for the Forsaken as a society. And me, as I play a Forsaken in a game, I feel a lot of loyalty to the Forsaken. I like them the most of all the species in the game. Because when you look at all the other species, like the Minotaurs, the Orcs, the humans, the Elves, even the Draenei, they all got to choose to be who they are and where they are. Like, on the Alliance, people got to choose if they wanted to be a paladin, if they wanted to be a priest, You know, although they were born human, they didn't get to choose that, but they got to choose to be warriors. But for the Forsaken, they're the only race of people that didn't get a choice. They were pushed into where they are in life. Because they were people who were killed off and then used as tools for someone else's ambition. They basically were pushed aside by some other person's ambitions. And I see that in Celia's Menethil, even in the brief chapters that I've read in the upcoming book. She's doing the same thing that Arthas did, even though she's, at this point, a little kinder. She sees herself as someone who was destined by some prophecy to do something, but she's naively going about it, and I think she's gonna lead to trouble in the end. And I'm kind of glad that Sylvanas squashed her little revolt. I don't think Sylvanas should have killed Celia, but I feel politically she had to. She had to assert her power, but I think she should have let Celia live, but politically she couldn't, because as the war chief, she had to send the tone, she had to send the message, and as the leader of the Forsaken, she had to send the... She had to protect her people from hope. That may sound weird, and people, if you're not really, don't really understand the lore on a deep philosophical level, then you won't understand that. Why it was important for her to kill Celia Menethil. She must die. And, Celia sealed her fate when she led her little revolt. Now Anduin feels guilty, but it's not Sylvanas' fault that he feels guilty. And I like how she was like, she did what she said she would do. She didn't go any further. She didn't fall back. But it was important for her to do that from a political point of view, because she didn't want to look like she was a pushover. Because if she came across as a pushover, then the Alliance would try every little thing to play at her naivety, or, well, these people are feeling kind of, we should feel sorry for them, and nope. She killed them all. That's what you gotta do. People try to enter your country illegally or try to leave illegally. You got to kill them. In that hope. But I think Sylvanas was right in the end, because they're dead. They're undead. They're never going to be accepted by humans. Not in the long run. At some point, the humans would have gotten over their grief, their sadness, and they would have reverted back to normal, and they would have probably distanced themselves from the Forsaken, and which would have created a bigger mess. One thing that I have learned in World of Warcraft, for all people's negative opinion of Sylvanas Windrunner, she always does what is necessary. She's one of the only characters in the lore that ever does what is necessary and sufficient. And that's what I like about the character. That's why she's war chief. I think that's why Sourfang, that's his downfall. I get it that he believes in honor. I get it that he likes these traditional way of the orc, but the Horde isn't just orcs. He can't look past his own political biases in the Horde. That's why he would never be leader of the Horde. The Horde isn't just orcs. The Horde is made of orcs. They're made of Tauren. They're made of Pandarians. They're made of Forsaken. And you can't ask a Forsaken to adopt the ways of the orcs. Right? They have different values. But be that as it may, one set of values should not triumph over another set of values. They should be respected. And you're asking an undead person to risk their everything for something that they don't even believe in. And their only solution is, when in doubt, they should just commit suicide. That's messed up. That's not honorable at all. And I like Sylvanus' point of view. Well, if your desire is to die, then die. But we're already dead. So we already made that commitment. So he will never be the leader of the Horde. I see that. He's too self-centered. Not that he doesn't care about other people. I feel that he's too self-centered. Bane, on the other hand, too, he's kind of self-centered, too. He speaks tall words, but I don't think he believes them. And when put to the test, he always goes the other way. He always amends his position. That's why neither of them are war chief. I'm clearing out all these quests. Coming up to the last 6 minutes of this video. Kind of happy. Get this video out of the way. I have a lot of high hopes for this Warlock journal. Because I got to produce a whole nother video this week. So I'm intending to release these every Tuesday. Ideally, I would like to release them every Monday. But I want to release Star Trek Online on Mondays. And then the Warlock Journal on Tuesday. I was going to do a series for Star Wars The Old Republic, but they're run by EA, Electronic Arts. So I feel that they're trying to kill Star Wars The Old... Although there's an expansion coming out for The Old Republic. So, I don't know. We're going to put that on hold until I know what's going on. I don't want to waste time and make a bunch of videos for something that's just going to go away. It would be a waste of time. Although it would be fun doing it, it would just be a waste of time. Now, the point of the Agamemnon game review isn't to recommend, like, you should buy this or not buy this. I'm never going to do that. My sole goal of this site is to show you, here's the game, here's what it's about, here's a long perspective of the game, here's how I play it, and to give people a chance to evaluate the game as it is played by normal people, regular people. And I feel that people who work for a lot of these, like, game magazine sites and stuff, I don't think that a lot of them, I don't feel are good game players. And I'm not saying they're not talented. I'm not saying they can't go out there and win some trophies, but I feel they have a short-timers attitude. And one of the things I think that a gamer has to have is not necessarily loyalty to a game, but they have to have a sense of value that they get from the game, or a sense of what value putting time in, what value am I getting out of the game, how to use their time valuably or valuable. And I feel a lot of game critics don't. I feel a lot of them are biased. Like, I feel like if you, one of the things I like to do with a game critic, I go pull up all their reviews that they've done and sit them side by side. Out of how many reviews have they did, was it positive or negative? You know, and a great many critics are always negative. They start from negativity, and they never really get to positive, and they act like they are, and then they sort of turn, and I don't really like that. I think you just need to, here's the game, this is what it's about, take away from the experience that we're showing, and that's the best way to evaluate a game. Both in the quiet times, in the big peak times. Later on, as we get to 110, as we can do more and more raids, and do them more often, I think you're going to get to be able to see World of Warcraft in its full lore or potential as a game. What makes it great? And the same thing with like Battlestar Galactica, which is a very different kind of game, but you can still get the value out of it, which in its basic form, a game is an activity. Games aren't about winning and losing. Games are about an activity, and it's an activity, something that occupies your time. If you only got 4 hours to kill and you got some time, here's a way to spend it. To get something out of it. That's really what a game is about, in my opinion. From a psychological point of view, I think that's a healthier way to determine whether you want to buy a game or not buy a game. So here we are. Got 2 minutes left. I hope you had a lot of fun. We'll be back for next week's installment. I hope you enjoyed our little adventure for today's journal. And here's, this is what Panzer Trade Shop said, here's what's happening in this week. But I hope you enjoyed it and have fun. I'm gonna let this play out and sign off now. Enjoy your day and see you next week. Bye bye.
Each day is a blessing. Be well.